Meantime, Colorado Springs is facing one of the worst budget crunches in that state's history, but government officials and residents are hard at work trying to save some money. They are selling off police helicopters, shutting off streetlights, and even volunteers are now offering to collect garbage at local parks and municipalities. And you can adopt a streetlight if you would like as well. Here now, Colorado Springs Mayor Lionel Rivera. Welcome, Mr. Mayor, to Power Lunch. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Sue. It's good to be on the air.
You know, your town, your city has a history of wanting less government, and they are now obviously willing to take up some of the shoulder of government. But I wonder how it's going to work, because as your city has grown, there's a disparity in terms of income levels, and some parts of the city may be able to afford to do these programs, and other parts of the city may not. How is that all going to work?
Well, you're right about that, Sue. There are some parts of town that are more affluent. They're going to be able to adopt parks and do a lot more of the maintenance, and then maybe the southeast part of town. But one of the things we did do is we are dipping into reserves to keep our community centers open. Those service the most economic disadvantaged parts of town. So we understand that there's some parts of town that won't be able to pitch in as well. But by and large, our community's been very positive in adopting parks, adopting streetlights, and really showing a spirit of volunteerism.
You've also cut back on the police force and other functions like that. How are you making up for those cuts? Are citizens filling in that particular role, and if so, how?
Well, no, we would never ask our citizens to fill in where police officers and firefighters do their jobs. But we've changed the way we respond to Priority 1 calls. Our Priority 1 call response time has actually stayed the same and improved a little bit. We aren't responding as much as we did before to cold cases, to maybe some break-ins in automobiles, but we are maintaining the level of service, I think, at a very high level. We're one of the safest large cities for a city our size in the state of Colorado and in the nation. So I don't want anyone to think that even though we've cut back in some areas that we're not a safe city. We're truly really safe.
There were reports, for instance, that taxi cab drivers were doing some surveillance and things like that. Is that correct or incorrect?
No, that's correct, but they've always been doing that. They've always kept their eyes out on the road and reported anything they saw to our police department that might help us. We formalized the program and let the community know that we do have more eyes out on the street, but that's something they had been doing all along, and I think it's just great to make a formal partnership.
Mr. Mayor, what kind of issues do you have, if at all, with pensions? That seems to be the biggest issue across the country. Is that one of the reasons why you've got to divert money away from other things?
Well, Michelle, that's right on. We had to make an additional $10 million contribution to some of our pension plans. We have 4 different ones in order to keep them actuarially sound. That is a challenge. If we didn't have to make that $10 million contribution, there'd be money for other areas. And we're working diligently. I am working with both the police department and fire department professional associations. So this year we won't be looking at that crunch for 2011, that we can adjust those pensions and make them more affordable.
Is there any political will to move them from a defined benefit to a defined contribution like the rest of the private America has done?
Well, unfortunately for us, back in the 1970s, a contract was struck with the firefighters and police officers for these pension plans, and unless 65% of the workforce votes out of the pension plan, it's not going to happen. But what we can do is roll our police and fire into a statewide plan that requires a much lower contribution from the city than the one we currently have, which is more of a local plan, and that's what I'm shooting for.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Good luck. We'll be watching closely, see if more cities adopt that same type of program. And
well,
how much does it cost to adopt a streetlight, by the way?
It costs $75 a year. It's a very low price, especially if you want to rally your neighbors to do that.
If you don't like the streetlight, can you return it to Russia?
Well, you can. As a matter of fact, we have residents that are asking us to turn off their streetlights because they like to see the night lights in Colorado, which are really beautiful.
Yeah, it's
I invite all of you to come out and visit our city.
It is gorgeous. I've been there a number of times. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good luck.
Thank you, Sue.